Yeah, yeah, Shambhavi.
Okay. Uh, so, a very warm welcome to everyone who's joined today, and we extend revolutionary greetings to everyone who's joined this session today. Uh, as we all know, I think we are gathering today at a time when the past one semester has seen uh, quite a few cases coming up of students being pushed to take their own lives in different IITs, Indian Institutes of Technology, in different campuses. Um we have comrades joining from different IITs today: IIT Bombay, IIT Madras, and IIT Gandhinagar. I'm myself also enrolled at IIT Delhi as a research scholar. The topic would be generally around the day-to-day experiences of students from marginalized backgrounds who enter these institutions, and the exact processes which are pushing students to either take this extreme step, or what happens in most cases is that students are also being pushed to drop out, and dropout is being naturalized as a term, as if it's just simply stress and inability to cope with it, as if there are no structural reasons behind it. Uh, so, I'll just briefly introduce the speakers and the topic, like the background a little, and then we can open the session, and the speakers can say uh, and share their experiences. So we have Pranav joining from IIT Bombay. He's associated with APPSC in IIT Bombay. We have Rahul joining from IIT Madras. He's a research scholar and is also associated with Chintabar at IIT Madras. And finally, we have Mitesh joining from IIT Gandhinagar, who's done bachelor's from Mumbai University, then a master's at IIT Gandhinagar, and is also currently working as a research assistant at the institute. Um, so before inviting the speakers, I think I just want to lay like 5 minutes of a brief background that uh, I mean, even prior to this discussion, while when the Darshan Solanki case happened, a lot of us, I think, went into reading up on different instances, different reports of what is exactly happening in these institutes. Even with the Darshan Solanki case, I think it shows how the social factors are being erased in such cases, where the administration initially did not even uh, acknowledge that this is a case with anything other than some like individual personalized mental health issue. The law enforcement authorities refused to register an FIR, and it's only after a long students movement that an FIR was registered. The administration, along with in like law enforcement agencies, have also tried to give the whole thing a slightly communal color by stating that one of the key persons responsible is a Muslim student who lived in the same hostel, and that there were communal remarks which are exchanged. So everything apart from the fact that this is a student coming from a marginalized background, and clearly there are in his narratives, in his family has repeatedly said that there were instances of discrimination happening. So all of that was repeatedly ignored and obviously not handled by the institute while it was happening. And even after such an incident happens, it's only through struggle that the truth is being exposed. Otherwise, it's being disguised in the form of either an individual uh, issue of like extreme stress, or it's being painted in other ways, for instance the communal angle in this case. Uh, so like going into a lot of reports that have come up around this time, one can see that this is an issue that doesn't begin at the level of higher education. It's something that goes back to school. uh, I mean, we know from data that AIFRTE has itself collected that uh, of all students who get enrolled in the first grade, only 6% of ST students, 8% of SC students, and 9% of Muslim students actually end up finishing class 12. So majority of your students from marginalized sections are actually pushed out of the system even before they finish class 12. When people do finish 12th and look towards higher education, we find that there is over-representation of marginalized sections in arts courses, and that's also not by a lot. Like I'm saying in terms of uh, not over-representation, but actually meeting the representation. The government mandated percentage of seats for marginalized sections are met only in arts courses. When we come to technical institutes, particularly these institutes which are elite and the topmost institutes, all the IITs actually, we find that at bachelor's level also the representation, the quota is not being met. And as you move higher, there is a drastic fall. Like by PhD, only half the seats or even less than that are being filled of the reserved seats. So effectively, most of the seats are then seats which are being filled by upper caste students. And as you go to the level of faculty appointments, we find that in IITs, across IITs, 98% of professor positions are actually held by upper caste professors. 90% of assistant and associate are also upper caste professors. So it's actually only 2% professors and 10% assistant and associate professors who belong to marginalized communities who reach the level of faculty positions in these institutes. And I mean, we know that reaching research scholar program is not simply a question of what is labeled as merit, easily as merit. Merit is obviously determined by a lot of factors. And among that is the most important thing, that how you network with professors, what kind of funding you can get for your own projects, what kind of proposals you can draft and who you can network with before an interview takes place. And all these things are then closed off to students from marginalized communities at the bachelor's level itself. So obviously going upwards in higher education becomes even more difficult. And lastly, just to add, like even when one says that it's in arts courses, at least some amount of seats, the reserved seats are being filled, we also know that like what level of courses these are. It's not like all, I mean, we find that in social science also at the level of research, there is immense underrepresentation. And why is this happening? Because like something like IIT, it's been made, like the JEE process has been made extremely competitive. So it's been neutrally termed as competitive as a marker of merit. But it's only those families which are able to shell out lakhs of rupees to send their kids to coaching institutes, either in Kota or somewhere else, so that students can prepare for JEE as well as do well in their class 12th examinations. And now even before that, like even 9th onwards, students are engaged in this kind of coaching. So it's only those students who are actually being able to do well in these supposedly neutral examinations of merit. So it's no surprise that at the level of this examination itself, a lot of filtering out happens as to who is able to access that kind of a network of coaching prior to even entering the IIT. And after entering the IIT, what happens is the story we are going to discuss today. So without delaying this further, I want to first invite Pranav from IIT Bombay, who's associated with APPSC in IIT Bombay, to discuss the theme we are here to talk about today. The everyday kind of narratives of caste-based discrimination that exist in IITs, as well as the day-to-day experiences of students, which is worsening this kind of mental health crisis, is what it's being termed as. But it's actually a different kind of crisis which is affecting students' mental health. So, yeah, I want to invite Pranav to speak first.
Thank you, Sambhavi, for this. Actually, you have gone through all the important points, the structural issues in the IIT system, which is actually causing this huge, why IIT students are pushed to commit suicides or end their lives in this in the institutions of so-called eminence. So basically what are the kinds of violence, if I can use that word, that they are actually facing within the campus. Because the issue of gatekeeping students from entering the campus is one thing. What happens to students inside who actually make it into the campus is a completely different story. So the moment a student gets inside the campus, they are like marked. For example, if the student is coming from a reserved category, the way the IIT identifies you, or like introduction happens, is by asking your rank, which is looked upon as a marker of caste. And once they identify that you are a student who avail reservation, basically they start looking down upon you. Like immediately, for example, even with Darshan's case, what was told by the family is that Darshan felt alienated by his roommate and batchmates after they came to know about his rank and through that his category. Once they found that he belongs to SC category, they were like, okay, the interaction became less, it became more hostile. The sister tells that they used to call, when Darshan used to come to the group meetings or to mess, dekho Dalit aa gaya, Dalit aa gaya. So this kind of targeting is a routine event for students who come from marginalized backgrounds. So that to an extent that most of the students try to hide their identity within campus. They don't want to disclose that they have come from a marginalized background. And that is why like surnames, JE ranks, the way they eat, the kind of clothes they wear, like all the skin color, everything is used to identify what category you are from, because that decides what friend circle you have, whether you will be taken seriously in group meetings, whether the way you can speak English is always looked upon of whether what social category you are coming from. So this is not just with students, like faculty also actively participate in this exclusion. And in IIT, the faculty have like too much power. And there is very little like the students can actually do to question this like this huge differential power dynamics between faculty and students. For example, in 2021, during the Seema Singh incident in IIT Kharagpur, it was it was very clear how she was like challenging the students. She knew that she was addressing a class of SC/ST students because they were preparatory course students, and she was openly telling them, go to the commissions, like they won't be able to touch me. So the impunity that they have in like, they know what they are doing. It's not that they are like unaware of what they are doing. They clearly know how to separate out kids and how to actually harass and destroy their confidence. And IIT, the course structure is, and the entire curriculum is designed in such a way that you have to treat everyone like as a competitor. Like the collective cooperating behavior is kind of discouraged. And on top of that, because there is already a question of merit, which is like thrown on the face of students who use reservation, they have an additional pressure to perform better, because they know that if they are not performing as well as the general category candidates, like they will be again. So a lot of things like in your career depends on how you perform, especially in the first year in IIT. So the kind of extracurricular activities that you can be part of, the kind of coordinator positions or position of responsibilities in various clubs, the kind of internships that you can get, which for all of this, which finally result into what kind of placement you will be getting. All these things are clearly determined by who you know within the IIT, who can guide you. And because of the lack of representation in faculty, and also lack of representation from students who are in positions of power, who belong to the marginalized section, the student who come from marginalized backgrounds doesn't have a proper mentor to ask like how to navigate the system, while the students from upper caste background clearly have a support structure already established who they can actually go to and kind of navigate the IIT system. Like one of the important things again that came with the Darshan Solanki issue was that how not knowing how to use computers or not knowing how to use like mobile apps and things is also used as a marker to attack your category. it is told that like Darshan, because he came from a marginalized background, he never used computer before, and just because he asked doubts about how to use a laptop, he was harassed before for that. The interesting thing is, based on the SCST cell survey of IIT Bombay, which was conducted 1 year back in 2022, we found that this kind of harassment is very common. Like the survey had responses from around 400 students from SCST backgrounds, and it clearly showed the way this kind of harassment and targeting that happens to the students. For example, there was a case when in a class WhatsApp group, one of the students was asking how to operate a particular app. And the moment that question was asked, immediately every other student in the group started responding, telling that, oh, this guy must be from a reserved category. They don't even know how to operate an app. And suddenly this anti-reservation memes and attacks started pouring and started filling the group. And then after some time, it was made clear that the person who asked the question was not from a reserved category. It was general category student who asked, and suddenly it stopped. So the issue is not just making fun of someone who doesn't know how to use something. There is a clear anti-reservation mindset, and this is like more inflamed or to add oil to fire. The faculty and the staff in the institute actually aid it. One such case is regarding the Students Wellness Center, which is basically the mental health counseling cell of IIT Bombay. So there was a second survey that was conducted by the SCST cell to understand the mental health condition of the SCST students, like whether they are fine or they are facing harassment and they are having mental health issues because of that. The survey was conducted in coordination with the SWC. So during that talks, we realized when talking to SWC that the counselors are not equipped to, they don't even understand that caste harassment is a valid issue, and students can face mental health issues and depression because of harassment from others. And during the survey, it was very clear that just because the survey had the SWC name associated with it, students refused to fill it. And in the next meeting, the students told that we don't trust the SWC because the head counselor of SWC has a public Facebook post against reservation. So she had a Facebook post telling that the reservation should be abolished. The students who come from reservation are not good enough to study in IITs. And this is the head counselor of IIT Bombay. And this was there in her Facebook for the last 7 years. It was the only public post. So anyone who scrolled in her Facebook could see it. And the students raised this issue. And once the students raised this issue, somewhere in June 2022, we from APPSC informed the SCST cell, the administration, director, everyone that this is an issue. Either remove her or change the counselor and sensitize all the counselors. There are 6 or 7 counselors, and sensitize all of them. Do sensitization sessions for the general category students, everyone. But the institute ignored our complaint. No action was taken. And then we complained to National Commissions. National Commission for Scheduled Tribe took suo motu cognizance of this issue and called up the IIT Bombay director in February, January, February this year, just 2 weeks before the Darshan Solanki incident happened. So what if institute had actually taken proactive steps when we raised the complaint? So this is the thing. There is no proper grievance redressal mechanism within the institute to address the issues that are raised by students. And even now, the head counselors, after the Darshan's suicide, we had raised a lot of issues demanding change in the counselors, and we demanded that there has to be SC/ST representation in the counselors. And based on that, IIT has published an advertisement. They still haven't hired anyone. Also, the head counselor, she was removed from the position, but she is still one of the counselors of the SWC. She has not been removed. The National Commission for Scheduled Tribe actually asked IIT to remove her and file an Atrocity Act case against her. That has not been done. So even when the like Darshan's issue came up, and we told that the institute already had more than enough data to show that students from marginalized category are facing harassment. They are facing discrimination in campus from faculty, from other students, from staff. The institute went the next day to the media after Darshan's death and openly proclaimed that there is no caste discrimination within the campus. So this is the way that the institute functions. Like whenever there's an issue, the immediate response is to tell that no, the institute is not responsible for this. We will completely wash our hands off. And what are they using? They are using the SCST cell itself and to tell that, see, we have an SCST cell. So the existence of SCST cell is used as a smoke screen to show that they are doing everything that is required, and there is nothing more that we will do or we can do, and this is all that is there. When none of the SCST cell of IIT Bombay doesn't have a proper mandate, there is no democratic process of electing student representatives, there is no proper demarcation of the independence of SCST cell and the powers and responsibilities, and reservation of PhD admissions, of faculty recruitment. None of these are actually managed by the SCST cell. They have no power. The one thing that SCST cell does for the institute is, let us say a student is facing an issue and he actually complains to the SCST cell. They will call the student to withdraw the complaint. That, please withdraw the complaint. We will sort it in some other ways. If you proceed with the and this is the way they will actually try to intimidate the student to actually withdraw the complaint instead of actually helping the student to actually feel safe and proceeding with the actual inquiry. Another thing that is very common with the suicides that are happening is they use the SWC or the mental health counseling centers of IITs to turn the structural issue into an individual issue. For example, with Darshan's case, he never went to the SWC. So the IIT told that, oh, he never came to us. If he had come to us, we could have helped him. But if you look at the documentary of the caste of merit, so there was a documentary on the death of merit, in which it is shown that when the suicides of IIT in IIT Roorkee and other IITs happened, and they actually went to the counseling centers, what they did after the suicides is they showed that whatever the student told in the counseling sessions, they used a certain portion of it to show that, oh, the student had personal issue, which is like completely individual. And it is not the fault of the institute. The student was suffering from depression based on his personal issues. So they will try to whitewash all the structural issues as in the category of personal and individual, and completely like wash away their responsibility in actually making the environment in the campus more safe and inclusive for the particular student. Other than the SWC, there is something called Bandhu program in IIT Bombay. So Bandhu program is an alumni-led initiative to address the mental health concerns, to have more sensitization on various issues. And when we went to the website of the Bandhu program, it addressed all the social factors except caste. So it had addressed gender, it had addressed LGBTQ, sexuality, sexual identities, sexual orientation, gender, or like every other issue that can be a factor to how students treat you and how others treat you and how it's a social factor. It is clearly explained, but caste is completely like eliminated. So we sent countless mails to the Bandhu initiative and the alumni who are funding it to actually tell that, like, please add caste to it. Even now, like after 1 year of like complaining, still they haven't asked. So with IITs, see, gender and sexual minorities, they are still getting more visibility because these identities, the way they are getting harassed is in some sense acknowledged in international level, and IITs in some sense try to claim that, okay, like we are, at least IIT Bombay tries to claim that we are a little bit progressive. But since there is no accountability or questioning from the international level, even like in the way that the IIT rankings are even decided, the NIRF rankings, for example, even though the NIRF ranking has a diversity and inclusion category, it is not it doesn't actually connected to fulfillment of reservation norms, or what is the social composition of the student population. More marks are awarded for national institutes if they have linguistic diversity. So automatically national institutes get more weightage in the NIRF rank compared to state government universities. And even in NIRF rankings, like for example, 20% female faculty representation is considered as ideal instead of 50%. So even the ranking systems are actually like skewed to maintain the hegemony of IITs in the as like this islands of merit, or like temples of merit. So when when students actually approach SWC, not just students from marginalized categories, or any student when they approach SWC, the feedback that we got from students is that they are not even following the basic minimum criteria of like confidentiality. For example, whatever they tell the counselors in confidence, the counselors are communicating it to their faculty and to the HODs and everyone. Also, like when many of the marginalized students, when they went to the counselors and talked about the harassment they are facing and how it is affecting how it is affecting their mental health, the counselors completely dismissed it, telling that it is only an issue inside your head, and basically telling that like there is nothing like casteism or like caste harassment in IIT, and this is all like fragment of your imagination, and you need to just work on it yourself. Like no one can help you. So the problem here is that IIT takes this very lightly. Like they are not they all these support structures that they call in place are just token measures just to get away with the accusation that they are not doing anything. They are not actually engaging in the sensitization or actual what do you say, actual or checking the mental health of students, or actually trying to sensitize even the faculties. So the faculties of IIT who directly finish PhD and postdoc and come are not even qualified to teach. Like a common like a primary school teacher needs to do a BTech and study psychology, like student psychology, to become a teacher. The IIT faculty doesn't even have to do that. So they are like completely ill-equipped to actually understand the students and actually like solve their issues. So yeah, I think I like to conclude, like the most token mechanisms are completely insufficient and just used as a smoke screen to whitewash the responsibilities of IITs. They are not doing anything to actually improve the condition of students within the campus, especially the ones coming from marginalized backgrounds. And unless something is done, we will keep on seeing such suicides again and again.
Thank you, Pranav. You really explained in great detail what are the different processes, both I think at everyday level, where in insidious ways, like your peers who are supposed to be in that journey with you are also adding pressure, and faculty who is supposed to guide you is not really helping in most cases, which is, I think, I mean, it's a sign that at the topmost level, if representation is actually not being ensured, that kind of and otherwise what you said about competitiveness, if otherwise with the kind of neoliberal time we are in right now, competitiveness is like all pervasive. So obviously in a supposedly like island of merit, that's going to be even more exaggerated. So one really has no recourse, and I mean, mental health is obviously not an individuated thing. So if even those professionals are not trained, one doesn't know what to do. But I think this thing about competitiveness, we should also think of later in the discussion as well. That I mean, one is to just add in before we go to the next speakers, that one is to speak about. I mean, obviously, one needs more representation within the institute. And also, I think because we're all also involved, not just in our institute as students, but we are generally all parts of some collectives, whether inside or outside IITs or at different levels, also to think of a student as part of a student movement to demand more such institutes, like, and better like faculty representation definitely, but overall like the question of defunding is also there. Like, why are students having to? I mean, in different reports, it's being said that after doctoral research, you're basically on your own fighting for like funding over scraps, basically, and there your social merit counts more than your whatever academic merit there might be. But anyway, like, thank you for your very detailed account. We move to Rahul, who's a research scholar from IIT Madras, and is also associated with the student collective there called Chinta Bar. IIT Madras also, like, unfortunately, we saw like 4 cases of suicide in one semester in that institute. So we would invite Rahul to now take the floor and share the situation at IIT Madras.
Sure, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes,
so,
you're audible.
Pranav Jeevan already covered a lot of factors that lead to different social anxiety, different problems inside the campus of IITs. And comparing to IIT Bombay, we can also relate, and most of the issues are common throughout the IITs or throughout institute of it. And I think that most of the audience here, they may not be from an IIT background. So something that they also may need to understand is that like the functioning of IITs is a little bit different compared to a normal university or college or that kind of setup. Now here, if you, there are certainly there are positive sides to it. For example, there's complete freedom for the faculties to do what they want. If you take a course, how you grade the system, it's completely given to the faculty. For example, if you want to, if you don't want to conduct an exam, they have the option to give assignments, and I ultimately conduct single exam, or they can conduct exam weekly also. This complete freedom is given to the faculty, and it always boils down to the person who is doing it. Like, if good people are there, they'll do it in a productive way. If a bad person is there, if a lazy person is there, they'll do it in a way that benefits them. So not only in the academic things, even the non-academic things, for example, the director here, the dean here, all the administrative decisions are also being taken by faculties. Suppose a faculty wants promotion. The promotion committee consists of other faculties in the department, which means that whatever the other person says, you cannot oppose. You cannot sustain in a campus like this by opposing someone. It doesn't matter however absurd they are being. You have to be in a cooperative sense. And this has created a very serious class issue inside the campus, which simply where a student fears to complain against any faculty just because all the faculties will stand together, and irrespective of the grave allegations against him, the faculties will support the other faculty. It has come to that kind of level. Now, there are a lot of problems in IITs, especially in IIT Madras. I cannot, even if you give one whole day, I may not be able to completely tell. Even I am not aware. There are problems I am not aware. It's a very complex issue that not a single person will be able to study or propose solution for the issue. So, personally, I would like to categorize this issue into 3 prominent categories. One is the systemic issue, where the system has failed to address, or system doesn't want to address this issue. Then there are certain issues that system addresses, or it has put up with a good motive or good point of view, but later it evolved to a very bad stage. And there are also personal things, like where the background where students come from, or background where the faculties come from, their personal point of views. So these 3 kind of problems is what we are trying to address. Now, coming to the point about social reservation in IITM, caste-based reservation in IITM, what we see that the IITM system evolved with a way that they did not consider reservation, or they did not consider people from marginalized community when the IIT system evolved. They considered only urban high-class individuals who get very best quality of education in their +2 or before from 9th standard. So once you join here, after the first month, the first exam starts. The system is so vigorous that probably after the first week, you will get an assignment. And probably a student who has gone through a coaching, different coaching centers are there. So there are lakhs of, after paying lakhs of fees, a student who come to IIT, they may be able to cope up with the system because they are well trained in that art, like of doing assignments, writing exams, all these things. Now, a brilliant student who may not have the social, he may not have the money or the social background to access these systems like online materials, like in YouTube, like coaching centers. They may, even though they are brilliant, they may fall behind because they are not done things in a like vigorous way, that they are not trained to do things in a vigorous way. And nowadays, especially now, compared to say, we have a canteen here, and in front of the canteen, there's a list of all the people who contributed to building the campus, batch of 1973. If you go through that list, all of them, based on the surnames, all of them are from higher communities, higher caste. But recently, more people are coming from categories based on because of the struggles that many students and student organizations have gone through, many court cases, many appeals in the parliament. Because of all this, many students from marginal communities are also coming. But once these students are coming, there is no way to, there is no bridge system in order to accommodate these students into the system. The system is developed in a way in order to accommodate only people who have gone through a vigorous training already outside the campus. The system doesn't address these kind of problems. For example, fees to be paid. For a BTech student, while joining here, almost 1 lakh is the fees to be paid. There are scholarships. There are ways to get scholarships. But initially, you may have to pay the fee from your pocket and then get it reimbursed as some kind of fellowship. State governments are giving fellowship. Central government is giving fellowship. All these things are there. But initial fees while joining, say 1 lakh rupees, maybe you have to take from your pocket, or you have to take it as a loan. And how many people from a marginalized community will be able to even do that is, of course, a question. Then, as I told, the education, like how vigorous they are trained, how vigorous they have gone through a training, depends on how they can perform in the initial sets of exam, which leads to social anxiety or issues where they are getting a less mark compared to the other people. And then there comes this personal issues, like a lot of the students who comes here, they have a strong anti-reservation sentiment with them. Then there is anti-caste sentiment. There is the question, just like Pranav even told, there is some like asking of JEE ranks, which is a means of saying there are people who clearly state to your face that you don't deserve to be here just because you have reservation, you have joined here. The faculties are there, students are there who clearly say it to your face. So these kind of issues are there. And also there are other different hierarchy related issues also. So very simply speaking, all your circles, most of your circles are people from your community or your state. Even state is also a factor here. People coming from states that are backward, they may not get much friends here because of the religion, because of the region barrier or the language barrier they have. So this is a very valid point. For then all this comes under some hierarchy related issues. For example, seniors will be there. Some of the seniors, mostly the seniors. If I am a junior coming from Kerala, the senior coming from Kerala is supposed to give me, tell me things that what I'm supposed to do, which courses will be better to take, all these ideas. But if there are no seniors from your community or your category, that creates a lot of problem. There is no way to act there, and most of the people, they are actually do not come out and give suggestion, give opinion to your juniors as well. So these kind of issues, these are the issue that has happened because of how the IIT system is set. Now there are a lot of issues where IIT system, even though IIT system addresses certain of these issues, but it fails to do it in a proper way. One of the things that we identified very recently is the so-called position of responsibility in IIT. So apparently, when some person is doing some art, being part of some arts club or student legislative council or any organization, sports, anything, are given some certificates that they can add into their CV. And most of the people who attend these programs are these done in a competitive sense that most of the people who attend the program, they are not actually interested in the art or actually interested in the sport. They just want that certificate to be with them. This creates a lot of pressure to students who don't have any particular skills to speak about. For me, I don't other than studying, I don't have any. I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't play cricket or play games. But so it puts a lot of pressure on a person like me, where it is you are supposed to have these things in your CV, otherwise you will not get placement. So even though this is done, this position of responsibility, the idea is done so that more people will be interested in doing arts and sports. It has evolved to a level where that itself is creating pressure to the students. Then there is lack of socialization in the campus. Until recently, after the COVID, until recently in IIT Madras specifically, there was the administration didn't want the students to have a personal space in the campus. All the buildings where students used to gather, they were demolished. The Krishna Gate incident there was a gate called Krishna near Krishna Hostel, which was completely, a wall was built there, and there were a lot of chairs sitting places inside the campus, which are all taken out, and all this led to having less spaces for students to socialize. And the clubs, all the even the association, all these associations are limited to certain number of people. And the institute's idea was that you stay in your hostel room, you stay in your lab, you don't go out, you don't socialize. And now IIT Madras is facing all these issues because of this attitude. Now it is changing. Now they are adding more places to socialize. They are adding more benches, more sitting places. All the positive changes they are trying to make, because their initial approach actually failed to create a good environment for the students. Now there are sometimes, even though we raise this issue, they may not be taking it positively. For example, one of the typical things they say is that security. For example, women's security. For women scholars, even 30-year-old women scholars in the IIT, in the hostel, this is not in IITs, it's in every institute. As far as I know, in every institute in India, this is the case. In name of security, they will not allow women to come out at night. Even though I am working at night time, like up to 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in my lab, if a girl student has to come from hostel and work, they have to write down. They have to go through a scrutiny from the security sitting there in order to come out of the hostel. Then very recently, there was in our Humanities and Social Sciences block, HSB, there was a tea shop. So one faculty apparently complained, saying that this tea shop is creating nuisance to her because people are coming there. And since he's a faculty, as I told, it's again a class issue. Like since a faculty complained, they simply took it and they shut down that tea shop. Hundreds of people were going daily to have tea there, and they simply shut it down. It was in the department near the faculty sitting places, and they simply shut it down because they told some fire hazard or something like that. That's an absurd reason that they can come up with. And these we cannot question certain reasons. Like if they tell safety, if they tell fire hazard, many of the students are actually convinced by their reasoning. The very few who question, they'll not get the support from the student community to actually raise these issues. Then nighttime curfews used to be there during COVID time. Nowadays, students are actually protesting all these things, and things are changing a little bit. But this nighttime curfews were going to the residential zone where faculties live. All these things were because the faculty don't like students going into their residential zone. They simply ban students from going there at night time. So these kind of issues add on to the pressure. Like there is no free, like, other than your academic life, other than your PhD lab life, there is no personal life in the campus, which is one of the major reasons why stress is there for the students. Now, this is one thing. This is one thing. That now again there is certain things that are plain right discrimination for students in the campus. In IIT Madras, this is a typical example that we tell to everyone. There is no non-veg mess in IIT Madras. There is a Jain community here in campus who cannot eat onion, food that contains onion, And for them, they have created a separate mess for less than probably 30, 40, maximum 50 people are going to that mess, say. For them, they have created a separate mess, and more than 50% of the 10,000 students studying here eat non-veg, and there is no non-veg mess in IIT Madras. You have to take it. Of course, there are other options. You can take chicken as extra. You can take in food court. There is a food court system where you can have non-veg. Then there is a there are canteens where you get non-veg, but as part of the mess food, there is no non-veg provided. And this idea of not providing non-veg is very common, that even in my lab, if I come with some non-veg food and eat in a common place, they will simply ask you, can you not eat non-veg here? Because I don't like the smell. Personally, I have experienced these things in my lab. So all this relates to the, even though this is a very personal, I cannot say that this is a personal issue. This is clearly a caste-related issue of not wanting the people who are not who do not follow your customs, who do not believe in your customs inside the campus. Now, there are other issues as well, like supposedly called institutes where people work hard. If you take a leave, if you take a personal leave, you are being judged for that. Like if you take for a research scholar, 15 days leave per semester is there. It's like legally it is there. So if you take this 15-day leave or at least 5 days leave and you don't come to lab on Saturday, Sunday, you are being judged on that, saying that you are inefficient, you are lazy, which clearly stops the personal life of a student, which clearly affects the mental health of a student. Then, so probably I'll stop talking about the problems here, since already 15 minutes are passed. I'll stop talking about the problem because I cannot completely tell all the problems. Lot of problems are there, lot of different levels of problems are there. Now I'll start telling what we are doing here in the campus to make a change, what Chindawar is doing to make a change. So the official body to make any change in this campus is the Student Legislative Council, SLC. So as a reason of this, as I told, because of the POR, position of responsibility, this competition, the people who come there, they come for their CV, and their idea is that they need to be on the good side of the administration. So they will not tell anything against the administration. They're mostly a bridge between administration and us, and it is a one-way communication. Whatever the administration wants to communicate to us, the SLC is a body that there's a, I have told to the general, your secretary, they represent you. So we can do anything. So this is the idea in the way in which the SLC works here. They are not actually criticizing or questioning the decisions taken by the administration. And even if the SLC does something, the institute doesn't take it into account. There is the dean of students has the power to veto whatever decision can be taken by the SLC. And actually in 2019, this by pressure from the Chindawar, SLC had passed a resolution saying that very study is required in the mental health in IIT Madras, where all the students should be a part of it, and also experts from mental health, experts from sociology, experts from caste-related issues. These people should be there, part of the committee, and they should study what are the problems in IIT Madras. And this was passed in 2019. And they blame COVID for it, but until 2022, they did not do much. And after the recent set of suicide, they are trying to do something. They are communicating with NIMHANS, they are communicating with National Health Mission and conducting surveys. All these programs they are doing something, not in a way that we also want to do. They are doing at least the 50% or 20% part of what we are asking to do. If they had done it previously when we demanded it, it may have been made a change. Even recently, even the present SLC, when the recent suicide happened in the last semester in the Tapti hostel, actually, the SLC formed a ad hoc committee in order to study the mental health in the campus. This ad hoc committee was vetoed by the dean of students at that time. Like SLC meeting happened. As a student member, I went, a general student member, I went, and I asked to be part of that committee. Some of us were part of the committee, and we didn't hear anything from the committee. We went back to the speaker and asked, said, yeah, we formed the committee, but dean vetoed. So we don't, he told that we don't need a committee. This was happening last semester before this 4 suicides. You have to remember that. once these 4 suicides happened in this semester, little bit things have changed. The director, the dean of academic research, these people are taking these things with a little bit open mind, and they have done some things in order to in order to solve this issue, in order to raise these issues. They are actually listening to student concern, but whatever they do may not have reached the level where we want to do, but still things are happening. For example, one of the big example is the wellness center. The drive for the wellness center that is happening right now. And our complaint was that, as Pranav mentioned in IIT Bombay, many times when student goes to the wellness center and tells something, there is no confidentiality. Through the dean of students, it goes to your faculty, and the faculty, whatever you tell about your faculty, there are cases where faculty talks about, oh, you are complaining to me about the dean of students to the wellness center. So now we are asking for a wellness center which is completely independent of the institute. This wellness center will function as a separate body, and this not only includes counseling, it also includes facilities so that the happiness of the students in the campus is improved, socialization is improved. And actually, through alumni, one alumni has promised to fund for this wellness center, and meetings are happening almost every week where how this should function, how this should go forward. So we are actively participating in that as well. And now we have counselors from outside the campus. Initially, the counselors used to be part of the wellness center or outsourced from your dost. Now we have counselors from Kaveri Hospital who comes into the campus, and these people are actually not anyway connected to the IIT Madras administration. They are not answerable to IIT Madras. And so these external measures are also there. And there are also methods to whitewash the administration from possible future things. For example, there is something called, the director has started as Kushi meetings. The idea of Kushi meeting is that the students will students will talk to their faculty advisor and to their guides on a monthly basis, at least once, and tell if any problem is there or not. This, in one way, it is good because this creates a discussion. At least once in a month, you meet your faculty advisor, you talk with them. But then all this data needs to be filled into a website. What we feel is that when a suicide happens in the next semester, maybe this data can be pointed out and say that, you see, we already have this student, and this student told that he has no issue. So it can be done in that way. And what we our idea is that, like, instead of students going to complain and create this issue, there should be systematic ways to address this issue, systematic ways to find out what are the problems that are happening to students, and address those issues rather than addressing the mental health issue, saying that this is your personal issue. It's not a personal issue. It is the way in this students are treated in the campus that leads to mental health issue. That is our point. And also, there is all the you know about the committee for the suicide of Sachin Kumar Jain, which has formed where an external committee has been formed for the inquiry, which is the first case in all of the IITs probably, where an completely external committee is inquiring a case. We are demanding also external grievance mechanisms, where presently only internal mechanisms are part of the grievance. Now we are where faculties are members. So if I am going to complain about my faculty, I have to complain to his friend. That is the situation here. So instead of that, we are asking for external grievance mechanisms inside the campus. Regarding these issues, regarding all these issues, what I would like to point out is that this is not an isolated issue in IIT Madras or IIT Bombay. This is happening throughout India, and it is also part of a governmental policy where the rules like new education policy actually affects the students and people in the campus in a very bad way, related to, for example, funding. The funding given by government has reduced to campuses, and institutes are increasing fees because they can't sustain with the funding from the government. Mostly private funding we are faculties are looking for private funding. Very recently in IIT Madras, this is a very important thing. Instead of being permanent faculties, they are planning for a tenure-based idea. So after 5 years, you cannot find you cannot get enough funding, you cannot you simply have to leave from IIT system. All these things are part of a nationwide methodical policy to cash the reservation policy, to cash the exclusive, to make IITs an exclusive space for certain kind of people, certain caste of people. And we have to stand together to make the changes possible. So let me conclude.
Thanks a lot, Rahul. Again, a very enlightening presentation. I really, as someone who is in a humanities department in an IIT, my experience is obviously very different. But also in some ways I could understand, like after going through, say, I mean, obviously there are other public universities are also under attack, but after experiencing DU, JNU, AUD, different kinds of spaces, when one goes to IIT, you understand like this thing of what you said, that there are no spaces for students to actually gather in campus. I think geographically, like architecturally, they've made it in a way. Like in IIT Delhi, for instance, they spent a lot of money building this huge, like centrally air-conditioned lecture hall complex, which, but like if students sit there without any reason, I think it's like you have to show your ID when you enter. And apart from places where you can buy food, like which is a transactional kind of relationship, that you go for a specific period and eat and exit. There's hardly any place where I think students don't have the time. As someone who has to take on teaching assistant duties for like supposedly lighter humanities courses for tech students, even those courses, because they're in IIT, the way the assessment only is designed by the institute, there is literally no breathing space. Like students take these courses thinking they're lighter and they'll get an easy A or something, but they actually realize that, you know, the assessment is the same, and the kind of like your grasp of English, all of these things basically still continue to play a role. So, I mean, not going further into all the issues that you raised, which are so important. I just want to briefly mention this thing because you brought up the fee issue as well. Like especially I think for research scholars across IITs, you are told that, you know, you have funding for different whatever activities you need to keep doing, because the assessment is so rigorous in IITs as compared to other universities. Like you have to show you've progressed, you've presented, you've published, all of that. But all this funding is post facto. Like if I want to go to a conference in another state, I have to actually give money from my own pocket, and later, after like 2-3 months of bureaucratic process, you might get some reimbursement or something, and that stands true for like academic fees also. Whatever fellowship is there, students mostly then end up like dropping out. In fact, at the beginning of, I think last semester, when a lot of fee hike related protest was happening in IIT Delhi as well, there was a protest which happened where actually the administration person, he came out and said so openly, thinking that he's not being recorded. I think he wasn't recorded actually, sadly. So one of the top, I don't remember which registrar or who came out and said that, you know, and that's the mentality, like that's how IITs have been framed, that you are in a meritorious institution. If you pay high fees, we are ensuring that, you know, other kinds of students don't enter this institute. So why are you protesting? Because you have been able to pay. So most of the students who are protesting had actually been able to pay. That's why they were there. But they were saying that, you know, there was a drastic loss of like students who couldn't enter. So this guy actually comes and says openly that this is what the high fee actually means. And apart from everything else which is leading to fee hike, I think that shows the ideology of IIT, which actually is one of those institutes, public institutes, which saw reservations come in much later than mandated. It did not initially have compulsory reservation across IITs. Anyway, so I just want to add that brief anecdote, and we move on to our third speaker, Nipesh from IIT Gandhinagar, who's currently working as a research assistant, and we invite him to share his view and experience of being in an IIT, and like, yeah, different aspects of the discussion today.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Great. So Namo Buddhaya and a very warm Jai Bhim to everyone. Uh, Most of the points like Pranav and Rahul, they have covered how the practices of discrimination covertly or overtly that has been done in the campuses like IITs. What I'll do is I actually have similar kind of experiences, and out of what I have experienced in past 2 years, I can give you some of the instances where I felt that I am being discriminated or I am being alienated from the campus, and also I would like to highlight the mechanisms that I adopted to overcome that, because I think even if there are no institutional mechanisms which are helping our students or which are already in function, what we can do is we can form our own mechanisms to overcome that, because net we have to survive in these kind of campuses. And first of all, I would like to say that the institutes like IITs, it is not hidden from anyone that these are the form of modern agraharas which are existing in India today. And having said that, these are the modern agraharas. The moment any person coming from marginalized background is stepping inside the institution like this, the conflict has started. So, for example, I would like to quote Dr. Ambedkar on that. He says that it is your claim to equality which hurts them. They want to maintain the status quo. If you continue to accept your lowly status ungrudgingly, continue to remain dirty, filthy, backward, ignorant, poor, and disunited, they will allow you to live in peace. The moment you start to raise your level, the conflict starts. So as soon as you enter into these institutions, the conflict has already started. So I have divided what your approach can be in 3 ways. So the very first way is that you might not be aware that such kind of discrimination is happening with you, and you might just internalize it and let it go, and you might pass out or you might not. And the second thing is, uh, if such kind of things are happening with you, what Pranav and what Rahul described in their talk, you can adopt an approach of either, being a silent spectator, or, form a support group or something like that, share it with your friends, and then you can, just let things go as it is, and then try to finish the course and get out of that institute at your own pace. And the third, which is not a very easy way to deal with such kind of instances, is that you resist. So when I entered into IIT Gandhinagar, I had this pre-mediated mindset that I am going to be discriminated in IIT Gandhinagar. So I already had this thing in mind, and the moment I entered, whatever speculations I have made that such kind of things will happen to me in the campus, they started happening. Of course, it is not very easy to take like to think of it sitting in a home and in a comfortable space with your own people. It's a different thing, and to experience it firsthand alone in an institute where you can't even go home if you feel low, or you can't even talk to someone about it. So you can what you can do is, even you, if you are adopting say for example that you are just going to be a mute spectator, what the kind of things with the upper caste students they'll do to you. So for example, I'll give you one instance where a friend of mine who was very much interested in theater. So for example, and they in IIT Gandhinagar, they have a theater group. So when the upper caste students were they were formulating a play, the role which was given to this particular student was a role of a housemaid. So you see the kind of, and I personally think that the person who like uh, he deserved better role in that particular play, but still the students, they collectively gave him the role of the menial worker. So what they'll do is they'll reduce you to your very immediate identity and try to, uh, show you your place in the institute. Another incident I would like to narrate is that, say, for example, when uh, so inside the mess also, when you are having food with your classmates, or when you are having informal discussions outside the class as well, what the upper caste students, they try to do is that they'll not uh, of course the upper caste students know that you come from a specific background, and it is not hidden. The very first day that you enter into the campus, everyone knows what your caste is. So if anyone is denying that they don't know what your caste is, he or she, they are outright lying. So for example, so if you are sitting in the mess and your classmates or anyone of your colleagues are having a discussion, what they'll do is they'll not respect your opinion in any other kind of discussion. For example, if they are discussing about cricket, or if they are discussing about some movie, or if they are discussing about some lectures which they had attended earlier. So when you try to give your opinion to them, or when you try to, put your point of view, they'll not accept it, and you will face outright rejection. And by the means of facing outright rejection, what they are trying to do is, what they are trying to show you your place. And the moment some or the other issues pertaining to the marginalized students, or say for example some atrocity case has happened, or say for example if Darshan's incident happened, they'll come to you and they will want to talk to you about that. So even that, giving importance to the issues only concerning to your identity is also a kind of discrimination that happens in such kind of campuses. So these, if and I am directly one-to-one conversing with students who are actually studying in campuses like IITs, and if you are listening to me, just know that if such things are happening to you, it is outright discrimination which you are being subjected to. So if you are feeling this, and I personally think the only way to deal with this is to resist whatever is happening with you. So for example, for resisting also, there are different degrees, and there are different types of mechanisms which you can adopt to overcome that. And me personally, when I joined IIT Gandhinagar, fortunately, I contacted few people at the campus beforehand, and after and like getting into enrolled into the course as well, I started communicating with people whom I think belong to or had similar views as me, or belonged to same background which I come from, so that they could at least relate to me, and I will have someone to talk to inside the campus. So when if so, take for example, when we say that upper caste students are forming solidarities, and they are the groupings, or their friendships are also taking place in terms of caste, you have either you can take it that way that okay, because of caste I'm getting alienated, or you can also use caste to form your solidarities. So for example, if you are trying to find people who belong to your background, you can join the groups which are already existing in the campus. So for example, in IIT Bombay, everyone knows that APPSC is actively working, in IIT Madras, everyone knows that Chintabar is actively working, and also together, like they are trying to make such kind of groups across IITs. So in IIT Gandhinagar also, these kind of informal student collectives are already functioning. So what you can do is try to reach out to them and connect to them. And it is, I personally think that it is very wrong to think that in the institute like IITs, if you are facing some or the other problem, it is impossible that your problem cannot be solved. So for example, if you are very pertinent about solving your problem, there are mechanisms in place which you can adopt and overcome your problems. So for example, when I was talking to one of the staff member at IIT Gandhinagar, and after a brief conversation, he came to know that I belong to marginalized background, and he tried to open up with me. And he said to me that भैया आपको पता नहीं है, but IIT में student ही भगवान है. So even if someone is reducing your identity to your immediate caste, you can use your identity as a student to claim that space, which the Savarna students are also doing. So I personally think that accepting or adopting such kind of mechanisms, you can easily deal with the experiences which are already happening, and incidences like Aniket or Darshan, I think that can be avoided. So one of the interesting things that we used to do in IIT Gandhinagar campus is that we used to conduct reading sessions, but as everyone knows that reading is not the thing which appeals to everyone. So if we are conducting a reading session, no, okay, hardly 8 to 10 people will show up, and then the same faces will repeatedly come, and yeah, you will have discussion and you will boost your ego. Okay, we have done something, and then the session ends, and then you go and do your work. But another interesting kind of things which you can do is that write an email to your hostel group saying that, okay, today is Purnima, and let's make key to celebrate Purnima. So if you are a student from marginalized background, of course, everyone will have some or the other attachment to Dr. Ambedkar or Buddha. So use that as a tool to, form solidarities in the campuses. So yeah, say like this is a very small thing that you can do, but I personally think that it can make a huge difference when it comes to, sharing the experiences, because people who will come to you to celebrate such kind of events, or people who will come to you to, share their thoughts on what you are thinking on, there is a high possibility that you guys will have same line of thought, and then you will have someone on the campus, and even if the connection is informal, or the another student whom you are connecting with is from another department or so, there will be solidarity within the marginalized students, and that will make a huge difference. And apart from that, say for example, what we at IIT Gandhinagar, there was one event known as Graffiti Night. And in that Graffiti Night event, many applications were sent out to the body which was known as Art at IIT. So I also sent out an a proposal saying that, okay, we want to draw this, and this is my proposal. And I personally went and had a word with the art curator there, and she was really happy that okay, someone is wanting to do something different. So we drew graffitis of Savitri Mai, Dr. Ambedkar, and Poolan Devi on the campus, and within a month that those graffitis were erased. So these are the also kind of violence that if even if you are resisting on a scale which is beyond any uh, uh, take for example beyond any individual to do on that scale. In a group, it is very much possible to achieve that. So even if the graffitis were removed, the faculties and the administration staff who were having the same line of thought, they were sympathetic and they were with us in times of difficulties. So these are the kind of things which these are the kind of mechanisms which you can adopt and you can overcome the experiences which Pranav and Rahul mentioned, that what's happening with our students in the campuses. Another particular thing I want to say is that when which is obviously very I can say loophole, or I don't know. So I was talking with the head of the department the other day, and I told him that okay, and this was after the Darshan incident, that in IIT Gandhinagar as well, things are not going pretty well. And if anything, I actually tried to threaten him, saying that if anything of such scale happens in IIT Gandhinagar, we will hold you responsible for that, because you are the one who are not acting on issues pertaining to the marginalized students in the campus. And the reply which I got, which although I had very good relations with the head of the department, but the reply which I got was that, okay, but where are your students? He said, where are your students, or where are the students which you are claiming to represent? Because so the like the invisibilization of the students belonging to the marginalized caste is also an issue. And I think it is a structural issue, because the institute of this scale, they should not ask such kind of questions. If the institute is not able to see the students who are belonging to the marginalized caste, and if the students are not approaching the administration or approaching the faculties with their problems, I think it is the failure of the administration that the students are not feeling safe in that regard. So instead of telling me that where are your students, or where are the students coming from marginalized backgrounds, the institute themselves should reach out to students belonging to marginalized caste, because I don't know how else they are going to make the institution more inclusive or more productive also. Because I have personally witnessed that students who are coming from marginalized backgrounds are more smart. And I say this because I have spent 2 years with interacting with them only. I had very least interaction with Savarna students on the campus, and the entire 2 years which I spent on the IIT Gandhinagar campus was with the students belonging to marginalized sections. So take for example, many of my friends who were undergraduate students, they used to come and tell me, okay, भैया ये आज तो देखो सर ने ये पढ़ाया और इनको 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 ये सवाल का जवाब आता था, मगर ये लोग बोले ही नहीं. तो they were they used to come and me, and they used to rant about their daily activities and whatever happened in the classes over a glass of lemon juice in the evening. But if you inquire closely, or if you look closely, students belonging to the marginalized sections, they have more creative ideas as compared to students who are, because the students who spoke in the class also when I was having conversation with them, it was very clear that the ideas which my friends or my colleagues had, they were much better than what the Savarna students in the class had already answered. So I think if even if IITs they want to move higher in the QS ranking, or they want to move higher in the NIRF ranking as well, or if they want to increase the productivity of the institute itself, they have to reach out. It is not an option for them. If they have to reach out to students belonging to marginalized caste, and they have to, accept them, and they because without them I don't see any growth of these institutions. And over the period of time, the brand which so-called brand which they say that they have created, it will deteriorate if only the Savarna students are given preference in the institutes like IIT. So yeah, and I actually had a few more things to say, but since I did not write anything and it was impromptu, I actually trying to recall it. So other than that, yeah. So one particular instance I recall is that how the experiences of Savarna students are getting validated, and how the experiences of students belonging to marginalized sections are getting cancelled. So I will give you one very fine example of how this thing plays out in institutes like IIT. So, for example, in my senior batch, three students belonging to upper caste background had taken extension to submit their thesis. 3 students out of 25 in a class, and no student belonging to marginalized caste had taken extension to submit their thesis. And when I was having a conversation with one upper caste fellow, and he said me that, okay, I am having this personal problem, and that's why I will not be able to submit my thesis, or I will no, and that was the reason I am not scoring so and so marks in so and so subject. So how it is in the hands of Savarna students to contextualize the experiences which are individual or which are cultural. Take for example, if any Dalit student or any student belonging to Adivasi background, they are scoring less marks, the narrative which forms around that particular performance is that okay, ये तो आरक्षण से आ गए हैं, और इन ये तो बेहतर परफॉर्म कर ही नहीं सकते. तो whenever a student belonging to SC or ST background is not performing well, it is termed as a cultural experience and not an individual factor which might or might not have played out in the particular student's life. And whenever if you talk to Savarna students, uh, they have this power of narrating the experiences in such a way that their experiences are very personal and it has nothing to do with their background. So if you compare that, 3 students from upper caste backgrounds needed to take an extension, but no student from scheduled caste or scheduled tribe background they submitted their thesis on time. This this itself says a lot about the so-called upper caste merit which they have created a myth or created a fuss about in the IITs. Yeah, so I would like to conclude this by saying that if you are a student belonging to scheduled caste or scheduled tribe background, do reach out to organizations who are actively working in the IITs, or even if you are not, even if you don't want to associate yourself with such kind of organizations, try to get associated with the like-minded people by, just taking small initiatives like, preparing a kheer or going out for, eating mutton or stuff like that, which people, of your line of thought will definitely can join you, and you can form solidarities across caste in the institutes like IIT, which is very necessary at this particular point of time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mitesh. I think what was needed was also to, I mean, it's not, I can't say hopeful, but at least some spaces where students can also come together, and that's necessary. It's not going to happen on its own. We're all going to have to work towards that also. That also, I think, came through. But that needs to be done. I mean, that's an important intervention. That's something I hope we can take further discussion around it in the next, say, 15 to 20 minutes, however long we take the discussion. But thank you for your for sharing all these thoughts. I just want to add a few things. I mean, this whole thing of who is meritorious, it's quite, I mean, IIT is like 2015, IIT Roorkee actually single-handedly expelled 73 students on the grounds that they are not performing well. And actually judiciary was forced to intervene and say that, you have to take a re-examination. You can't just, so, and obviously majority of these students were from marginalized backgrounds. So I think they thought that they could get away with it easily also. But in that case, at least, because I think the number was so high, the judiciary was forced to intervene and the case was taken up. But I think in a lot of these cases, it's just termed as a neutral dropout, like people aren't being able to cope. But yeah, how people can cope, that is not just up to the administration. We also have to take active steps to ensure that these ways of coping go beyond what's available, because what's available is so little in terms of infrastructure provided. Another point I just want to briefly add, which is not completely linked to this, was that, I mean, the aspect of, because it's discussing IITs and technical institutes have always, I think, in STEM, women have always had like bad representation. And even now, when that's slightly increasing, it's quite visible that it's only women from particular backgrounds who are mostly getting admission. Like even within that category, basically, there's overrepresentation of upper caste women. But having accounted for all of that, like it's quite shocking that on average, as an average, say, for instance, in IIT Delhi, there's only 20% women students, and that's an average of like all departments. So in some departments, like obviously humanities has much higher representation, or supposedly softer science disciplines have more women students. But what is termed as key courses, key science courses, for instance, like electrical engineering, mechanical, computer science, you see mostly male students, and when women are there, they're largely from upper caste background.
Are you hearing, or there is a problem in sound?
I think we lost her.
Yeah. Lost the connection. Let us wait for 1 second.
Shashank has raised his hand. Maybe Yashank?
Hello. I'm back. I'm sorry, the Wi-Fi stopped working, so I've switched to mobile phone network. Am I audible now?
Yeah, sure.
I'll just finish that one point, then we can, because Shashank had raised his hand, but like I was just recounting, I don't know how much came through. This one conversation with a female student in a BTech course who's towards the end of her bachelor's at that point. I think she would have finished by now. And how women students are generally reluctant to basically pursue further like MTech or a PhD. Primarily because there are such few female faculty that the kind of networks that I mean are required to pursue research are just not available, because cross-gender interaction, at least in these key science disciplines, is actually discouraged. And that's through different stereotypes of like how women will use any opportunity to like level sexual harassment complaints, while at the same time day-to-day harassment is a reality, but portraying women in a particular way that all interaction is basically stopped. And like just some statistics, like while students across as an average, including undergrad courses and otherwise, in students, female students are 20%. When it comes to faculty, in these key departments like mechanical and electrical engineering, actually less than 10% of the faculty is female. And again, within that, there's a gross overrepresentation of upper caste women. But overall, yeah, that's the situation. Most people are not aware of the different provisions of sexual harassment at the workplace act and how women can actually take forward complaints. Women are discouraged. They feel they can't do it because there are such few women in campus and they're already seen as belonging to softer and they should stick to their own islands basically within the campus. Lastly, yeah, like just one statistic to prove like what kind of on the aspect of gender what is happening. Like a report came out last this semester in March or April after a year-long survey on the aspect of gender in IIT Delhi, which says that even among faculty, 50% of female faculty itself thinks that taking maternity leave will actually be discouraging for their career and will be detrimental to their career. And 30% of male faculty also agrees. The rest is either ambivalent or like not saying anything, which goes to show what is the prevalent kind of attitude basically towards women in technical institutes to this day, where they are basically enclosed in particular departments and are not actually, even when they are represented, they're not, I mean, they're not basically all women, and even among those women, people are not entering PhD, and if they finish PhD, they are not getting faculty positions. So, I mean, that's something I just wanted to add briefly. But yeah, we can enter the discussion. Shashank had his hand raised. So if he wants to add or speak. Shashank, can you hear me? Did you want to add something? Oh, I mean, I think you can unmute. I don't.
There is no restriction for unmuting.
There's no restriction. Oh, he's saying there is restriction.
No, but there is no restriction.
There's no restriction because people have been.
The settings are open, so anybody, if he or she wants to speak, just unmute yourself.
Okay, I think now he's not in the meeting. He's trying to rejoin. If there's
Hi.
anyone else who wants to, sorry, I interrupt.
Could I intervene if no one else is speaking?
Yes, yes.
Right
yes,
away?
Yes.
I must say the experiences which our three colleagues have given have been very rich and very informative also. There's obviously two kinds of problems. One is the very structural question of how the IIT structures their courses, the way that the IIT's training program is undertaken. And what bothered me listening to all of you was that now this is going to be extended to all kinds of higher education. This kind of very competitive, very high pressured attitude to the work that has to be done and to the achievement levels that are to be reached. So I think we should really, this is a very significant issue because we can now actually expect more instances like this to start happening. In fact, I came across this data somewhere that from 2021, some 30,000 students have taken their own lives. And this is, of course, this is not done, not dividing them into gender or caste or anything like that, but it just shows you the extent of pressure that is working on the students. I think that the way to handle this, and I think the last speaker gave a lot of ideas on how collective functioning and getting together and forming groups makes a difference. And I think that all student organizations, we need to take up these issues so that there are formal structures and formal formal recognition is made of these things. Otherwise, what tends to happen, and this was coming up in the conversation also of the three colleagues who spoke, is that everything gets reduced to something personal. Either it becomes personal or else it becomes, you go from, it's a pendulum swing from either your reserved category or you have a personal problem. But I think this is very important that one is that there should be proper organizations or there should be proper panels formed in all the IITs and in all higher educational institutions to take into account the problems that students are facing. And the second thing is that we should also look at how the financial aspects of the conditions of students who come from marginalized sections. Because for them, I mean, I kept hearing all of you saying that, you have to make your arrangement, and then later, as and when the funds come, then you get reimbursed kind of thing. But this clearly is a huge problem for someone who does not come from a privileged background. And therefore, I think this issue also should be taken up, that the financial requirements of all students should be properly taken care of and in a timely way. And if there is a problem of the finances coming through, well, then mess charges and so on and so forth should not be taken from them. You see, so that you don't expect them to first put it, get money from somewhere and then later see what happens. So that financial aspect, as well as the other aspect of the quality of the program, and therefore the need to have formal associations or mechanisms in place in the institutions which actually work. And I think these are demands that even our students' unions should raise at the national level also. And the other thing that came up, you see, it's very strange, but I remember talking to one of the students from IIT Madras, and there was this terrible instance where they had started Phule Ambedkar Birsa study group. And they had started organizing meetings. And they were told that what you are doing is you're mobilizing caste in order to take up these issues. You should not do it like that. So they said, but there is a Vivekananda Society also. And nobody has a problem with that. So, this kind of problem,
Yeah.
I think I've taken too much
Sorry,
time.
I just want to intervene because other people had also raised their hands.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's very important, but I just wanted to intervene. So maybe now that the floor is open and since hands are raised, if Shashank wants to go first, then we can have Laltu enter in.
Yeah. Thank you all. Thank you all the speakers today, because it was not just a discussion where we only try and understand the issues. It was coming right from the details as well. One thing I actually felt is really, really important is what Mitesh Bhai in the very end started to mention, that apart from agitations, apart from also struggles that we engage with, creating a safe space for ourselves, our students around, is also as important is what he was pointing at, I think. One such instance where I could reflect from a non-IIT, but still a premier institute in the country that I am part of, is that in one of the cases on the campus itself, there was a sexual harassment that had happened. The survivor actually had pushed back and just left from the room where the incident had happened. But unfortunately, when she came and confided with us after 2 or 3 hours later, she shared one thing that has stuck with me always. She was telling the fact that in the whole of the institute, I couldn't think of one place to go and even let out what I had to let out.
Yeah.
I could not express myself. I didn't know where to even go and
Where to go.
So ever since then, in at least our capacities, we don't have organizations, we don't have groupings within our campus. We have tried to we have tried to make sure that at least somebody from the student groupings are always there on campus, or there at least at most times, so that even if such instances happen, or if there is an emergency, some students can be